Is it befitting to dedicate this day to the late struggle veterans O.R. Tambo and Steve Biko? Does the name Human Rights Day enjoy the support of all political formations? Do South Africans respect the rights of fellow Africans? And is the Constitution's Bill of Rights given enough respect by South Africans? What time is it? That's question time. Khotsong and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. As the nation mourns the untimely death of playwright, musician and veteran actor Joe Mafela, Question Time continues to pay tribute and send condolences to the Mafela family. Today marks the national commemoration of Human Rights Day here in South Africa. The day originates from the Sharpeville massacre that took place on March 21, 1960. On that fateful day, a peaceful protest march against past laws turned ugly when the apartheid police killed 69 people and left many others injured. 25 years later, on March 21, 1985, in Langa in the Eastern Cape, the police fired on mourners marching to a funeral. 21 people died and several others were left injured. Today's main event was addressed by President Jacob Zuma in King William's Town, Eqonce, in the Eastern Cape province. The activities that included the unveiling of the late Steve Biko's gravesite were held under the theme, The Year of O.R. Tambo, Unity in Action in Advancing Human Rights. We are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the number 089-1104-210 or Twitter handle @QuestionTime24. My guest today, Narius Moloto. He is the Secretary General of the PAC, and joining us from our Durban studio, Dr. Nchaupe Mukwape. He's a Black Consciousness Movement veteran, and we hope later we'll be joined by Caswell Brooks from the Human Rights Commission. But before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at what the President had to say today at the official commemoration of the Human Rights Day.
We mark Human Rights Day each year for important reasons. We come from a history where there was a scant regard for fundamental human rights. It is most fitting that we pause annually and remember the past, so as to learn from it and never repeat its wrongs.
Okay, that was President Jacob Zuma emphasizing the significance of Human Rights Day. Gentlemen, let me welcome you to the show. Welcome to the show. Well, Human Rights Day, Sharpeville Day, and today, you know, they brought in the Biko element to it and O.R. Tambo. It is quite a fruit salad, one must say.
Yes, indeed, it's becoming a fruit salad, and in a way it obfuscates our history and makes it difficult for us to be able to trace our steps, because as we go on this journey of freedom, liberation, we should be able to mark the occasions where we pass and name them appropriately. It's very important to name them appropriately. And we in the Black Consciousness Movement disagree that the names of important days should be minimized by making them generic, calling them generic names. Human Rights Day, Youth Day, Reconciliation Day. Those days are very important in our history, and they must have the names that bear their significance. we in the Black Consciousness Movement, and I take credit for this because I was the person who was charged very early in 1972 with staging the first commemoration service for this day in 1972, and I named it Heroes Day to embody the sacrifices of all our people who had died in pursuit of freedom. The people who died in Sharpeville, who died in Langa, who died in Bondelswarts, who died in all other places facing the might of the regime. And we've called it Heroes Day ever since then. It was only in 1994 that we had this new speak, I call it new speak, where our liberation language has been changed, and basically, in our view, to minimize and confuse our people, to minimize the gravity of our struggle, that people died. And they didn't die for as a human rights violation. They died as martyrs, facing the might of the regime, made major sacrifices. And we need to know that, history needs to know that, so that even future generations know that liberation is never delivered on a platter.
Okay.
To take from those examples of the past.
Okay.
Human rights. Whose human rights?
All right, all right. Ntate Mokgwape, though, quickly before I come back to Ntate Moloto here, are you not happy as the Black Consciousness Movement that today the state recognized Biko in the manner that it did and unveiled as a national monument, a heritage site for the Republic, Biko's gravesite?
I regret to say, it smacks of clutching at straws. You see, the ruling elite is in trouble at this moment. As you know, they're splintering into 101 factions. They got no central core, no central vision that they can give to our people. To confuse March 21st with Steve Biko is indeed something very disturbing, because March 21 is correctly identified with the PAC and Robert Sobukwe, and so it has been not only nationally but also internationally. That day has been identified with the PAC and with Robert Sobukwe.
Okay.
Steve Biko is in no way, except of course as a revolutionary, but his day is in September, which has been commemorated by the Black Consciousness Movement, also nationally and internationally. Okay. The ruling party, I think, my view, is that they've got all confused now.
Okay, Ntate Mokgwape, hold it there. Ntate Moloto, thank you very much indeed, and we also welcome the commission. Well, we'll talk about many other things regarding today and other social media developments that have just been emanating. But Ntate Moloto, indeed, March 21 is known to be a PAC day. But I must say I was really impressed to see you there in Sharpeville today with government ensuring that our people are reminded of the significance of this day, albeit I know that you probably have or share the same sentiment that rather let it be Sharpeville Day.
Yes, it is dangerous to cloud our history, particularly the history of struggle. History must be recorded as is. Now, the PAC maintained that this is the Sharpeville Langa massacre, and we refuse to compromise on it. Because if we do so, the danger is what we are beginning to hear now, where they want to reduce it and mix it and cloud it, and it loses meaning. It will confuse the future generation. It is not correct. Now, Sharpeville Langa is not an accident. It's a day that happened in the course of the struggle.
Yeah.
And it marks a very important, significant in the life of our history. And we need to record both the events of the Sharpeville and the consequences. For instance, we know it was a turning point.
Yes.
The struggle for liberation.
Sure.
For the first time in this country, we have had the state of emergency. That's the origin of the banning of the black organizations. That's also the beginning of the formation of the armed struggles of both the PAC and of the ANC. That has actually turned around the struggle. It actually graduated our people from fearing to die than the police, and they then took a different position.
Okay.
However, it is also important to note that United Nations then decided to name, on that day, there was a special session, and they said that's where the Human Rights Day came. It was from the United Nations, where apartheid was declared a crime against humanity.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I'll perhaps ask you the same question that I asked Dr. Mkwape here. That, well, now that this year there was a bigger element to it, does it make you feel underdone in any way?
No, not at all, not at all. We just think that those who are in charge and try to mix these things, they unnecessarily bring confusion into our history. And that is absolutely not necessary. Biko has always been remembered and honored, and there's a day. Why don't you do it on that day? Now, I don't think that is important. I mean, we should begin to bring and clash the leaders and play down the significant role that they have played. We need to recognize and respect them and honor them for the role they've played. But please don't confuse us in doing so. Don't confuse, particularly the future generation. When the PAC stood firm, we were fearing that the writers of modern history will simply try to edit, like what they did with Sobukwe, attempt to edit him out of history.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
That's what we don't want.
Well, 2017, Human Rights Day, it's happening at a time when there's so much happening that concerns, the human right aspect of people's lives. I mean, today, like I said, the social media is abuzz about the restaurants, altercation there, and where does this place us?
Well, Paul, first of all, good afternoon to everyone here. I think it places us in a very horrible space, because I think that no one thought that 23 years into democracy we would find ourselves in this space. 21 years into our new constitution that we would find ourselves with so many incidents of racism and human rights violations of various sorts. And I think that if we look at the issue of human rights violations, I think racist incidents, especially those that play out via the social media, are very easy to grasp onto and to grapple onto, and to say that that is, what as far as human rights violations go. But unfortunately, I think it's very clear that we have many other human rights violations playing out in this country on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we sat with a crisis where 17 million social grants are going to be paid, luckily, on the 1st of April, but under what circumstances? And we have to ask ourselves that. We're looking at people that died, when the Health Ombuds report came out, 94 people that died at Life Sidimeni.
Yes.
I mean, there's countless other, Marikana from 5 years ago. I mean, there's so many other, a long laundry list of human rights issues that we should really be concerned with as a nation.
Okay, I want to bring that tweet from Helen Zille into the picture here. If my director can just get it for me. I know that they had it on screen earlier. Not the apology one, the one that caused the apology. Yeah. Dr. Mkwape, Helen Zille says, and she has indeed apologized, for those claiming legacy of colonialism was only negative, and only is in capital letters, only negative. Think of our independent judiciary, transport infrastructure, piped water, etc., etc. So she's saying, Mkwape, you must be very appreciative of this colonialism, that you today are a medical doctor.
Well, that statement I think it reflects exactly what we in the Black Consciousness Movement have been saying, that racism endures and persists in our society. That the settlement of 1994, which some people call freedom or democracy, could never bring about the eradication of racism because it compromised with racism. You see, the settlement of 1994 is a strange settlement because it is a settlement where the victors and the losers all were happy. Now, I have never seen of a contest where loser and victor are happy. Our constitution is supposed to be the most wonderful constitution in the world. But where does it place the people who are fighting for freedom? It places them in almost the same position as they were in before they attained the so-called freedom.
Okay.
What Helen Zille is saying, which is another corollary of what she's saying, is that had white people not come here, black people would have stagnated at their level of development. In other words, it's so racist, it's so abundantly obnoxious. She's saying black people have no capacity to develop. From 1652 to now, we would be wearing skins. We would never have had doctors, would never have had professors, would never have had piped water. How does she know we would be having astronauts living on the moon by now if they had not come here? How does she know that?
Hold it there, Ndadumgwape. Hold it there. I need to take Pabala. Pabala, you are in Durban.
Dumela Ndadum.
Dumela Ndadi.
Waphila mokenaka.
Nzakapela alphala Ndadi.
May I first and foremost salute the hero and heroines of our struggle, Kim Moshweshwe, King Shaga, King Liga, and many others, and Robert Sobukwe, Steve Biko. I think I am equally disheartened by the efforts of the neo-colonialist government to try and put a wedge between the PAC and AZAPO, or the Black Conscious Movement, by calling this day a Human Rights Day. I think it's an effort on the part of the neo-colonialist movement to try and obliterate the contributions of the PAC in the struggle for freedom and emancipation of the indigenous people of our land. There is no reason whatsoever that will justify them rewriting the history of our country in a manner that will derail our children. On this day, we know very well, and the world knows, that our people, in a march that was organized by the PAC, were mowed down by the apartheid regime.
Okay.
And I am struggling to find a reason why that has changed, and can only come to a conclusion that the neo-colonialist forces within our government is trying to derail the history of this country.
Pabala, thank you very much for that call. This really doesn't sit well with the PAC, eh?
The statement by Helen Zille, very responsible. It is wrong. You cannot suggest that in any way you can justify colonialism. Colonialism did not just underdevelop the African people, it killed them. It underdeveloped them in so many respects, socially degraded them, economically exploited them. How do you come and justify such a system? It's wrong. So she was highly responsible. We do not know whether that reflected what is in her heart and head, but whatever it may be, it may emanate from, is wrong. We do not really believe that basically it's an insult to the nation and to the African people.
And then this happens also around the time when we've just emerged from the xenophobic attacks and all that. At what point are we as a country in as far as the protection of the rights of other human beings that we share this earth with?
It's a very difficult one, Paul, because I think that, and I've said this on a couple of occasions on very many platforms, that the biggest problem in South Africa is that there's a lack of congruence between ourselves and the Constitution. We second guess and we constantly ask questions about the Constitution. And I myself don't personally know every last section within the Constitution. What I'm really concerned with is the Bill of Rights. And the reason for that is because that's where my rights are set out. That's where the rights of other people are set out as well. And I think that once as a nation we come to grips with that, for example, the fact that that we have equality based on race, that we have equality based on religion, sexual orientation, sex, gender, all of those other, all of those other elements, then that is when we will start seeing a reduction in these types of violations. And we will see fewer women who happen to be lesbian being raped in our township, or purely because someone feels that this is a corrective action that they're taking. Okay. We'll also see that, for example, our kids won't be in schools in provinces like Limpopo in the Eastern Cape, where they don't have roofs, or they're sitting in literally in mud huts 20-some odd years into democracy. So for me, I think part of the problem is that there's this continuous tussle over what the Constitution actually means and what is its importance, when it's actually a fundamental document that all of us can live our lives by, and that I think that can solve many of these problems that we supposedly have.
Nkombani, you are in the Eastern Cape. Nkombani? Okay, we seem to have lost Nkombani there. Let me just perhaps go to Durban. As we wrap up, where to from here?
Where to from here? I think we need to, first of all, acknowledge that the revolution of our people has been betrayed. For 30 pieces of silver. What we have seen in the 20 years from 1994 is the emergence of a very tiny black bourgeois class, very small. And the rest of our people have been left exactly where they are. But importantly, and I think promisingly, our people are beginning to recover their struggles. Everywhere you go in the country, our people are organizing on their own. They don't have a coherent political voice, but there's a protest here, there's a riot here. Those things are not insignificant. It indicates that a new awareness is arising among our people that they can take over power. And I think for us in the Black Consciousness Movement, it's very important that we must stand side by side with our people, give them a voice, give them power to eradicate this system which is fraudulently called freedom and democracy, and give our people true freedom. Okay. Basically, to give them control over their lives and to give them control over the means of livelihood.
All right.
If our people don't have a control.
Okay, and I'll have to cut you there. We are running quite short of time. As the PAC, what is happening with Sobukwe?
Yeah, look, so Sobukwe's role in the struggle is clear. He led the party not only to his formation, but to shaking the pillars of oppression in the form of the pass laws. He has shaken the country. But significant to that is that his voice, up until now, we are in search of his voice, which has been systematically, and his images, which has been systematically taken away from our people. The people cannot hear him. So effort to try to edit him out of history is what pains us, is what pains the family. But coming back in closure for this concept of human rights, we say the land ownership is a fundamental human right. and it is not being addressed. You would like to see it on the center, also as is catered in the Constitution. Why are we not talking about it?
Okay, indeed. Why are we not talking about it? But that was question time for today. We've run out of time. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, Mudima Let's Hand.